Pasuk says in Parshas Vayechi, Yaakov Avinu is blessing his children before he dies, and he turns to Zevulun and he says, Zevulun l'chayf yamim yishkain. Zevulun will live by the chof, he'll live by the ports. V'hu l'chayf aniyos, he's going to be a merchant marine. V'yarchasay al tzidoin. And the pasuk continues in pasuk Gedal, Yissochor chamar garim. Yissochor is a laden donkey, roivetz ben hamishpasayim, that lays between the crossroads. Vayar menucha kitov, and he saw that rest was good. V'sa'aretz hinaema v'yechichma lispol, and he lowered his shoulder to carry. V'hila masovid. Rashi teaches us. Rashi says the following: Zevulun oisik b'parkamatya. Zevulun was a businessman. Umamtzi mazon l'shevet Yissochor, and he would provide food, sustenance for Shevet Yissochor. V'hei moskim b'Torah, and they would sit and they would study Torah. What was Yissochor's job? Rashi says in the next Rashi, Yissochor chamar garam, he is a laden donkey, sovel ol haTorah, carrying the yoke of Torah. Livslo kamar haro, says Rashi, to paskin law, v'sidrei iburin, and the Ibur Chodesh. Yodea bin al itim, like the pasuk says, they were the ones that calculated the complex equations of the calendar. They had Masayim, Roshei Sanhedros, they had 200 heads of the Sanhedrin, they were the Torah teachers. So Yissochor was supported by Zevulun. Also in Parshas V'zayis HaBracha, when Moshe Rabbeinu is blessing each of the Shvatim when they die, it says, V'lizvulun amar, and to Zvulun he said, Semach Zevulun b'tzeisacha, Zevulun, be happy as you go out to work, V'Yissochor b'ohalecha, and Yissochor in the base medrash. And the pasuk says, Kishefa yaminaku sefunay tunechal. So Rashi there says, Zevulun v'Yissochor asu shutfus. Zevulun and Yissochor had a partnership, shutfus. Zevulun l'chof yam yishkon. Zevulun lived by the port. V'yotzei l'parkamatya bisfinos. He would go out to do business. He would go out to do business with the ships. Umistaker, and he would earn money. V'nosin l'toch piv shel Yissochor, and that which he earned, he would feed to Yissochor. Therefore, it says first Zevulun before Yissochor, because the enabler for Yissochor's Torah study was Zevulun. And as the pasuk says, Yissochor b'alecha, be happy, hatzleach b'yeshivas l'alecha, excuse me, be successful as you sit and you study Torah. So the pasuk says very clearly that Yissochor and Zevulun had a little bit of a partnership. Yissochor would sit and study Torah. They were the Torah teachers, the Roshei Sanhedros. They figured out the difficult halacha calculations. And Zevulun would work, and he would put food in Yissochor's mouth. Just one more interesting Rashi here. Rashi says that in the portion of both Zevulun and Yissochor, there were many natural minerals, and they were very wealthy. There was Zechuchis Lavana, the Gemara talks about it, this white crystal, which was incredibly costly. It was very precious. It was actually both in Yissochor and Zevulun, but Yissochor, they took care of studying Torah, and Zevulun took care of all the other finances that were involved. I'm just saying this because it could actually play a little bit of a role in the future. So that's what we see. Nice partnership. Yissochor, Zevulun, Yissochor studies the Torah. Zevulun, he works and helps support Yissochor. Interestingly enough, when it speaks about the Nesiim, when it speaks about the offering that was brought in Parshas Naso for the Chanukas HaMizbeach, for the inauguration of the Mizbeach, actually there it says that the second day the carbon was brought by Yissochor's Nasi, and on the third day Zevulun. A little bit different order. Yaakov Avinu first gives a bracha to Zevulun, then to Yissochor. Moshe gives a bracha to Zevulun, and then to Yissochor. By the karbanos of the Nesiim, Yissochor came before Zevulun, and we'll try to talk about that. Why is there a difference in that particular order? But perhaps most well known is the Medrash Rabbah. The Medrash Rabbah in Parshas Naso says the following: Lama zacha Zevulun lahakriv shlishi. Why did Zevulun have the opportunity to bring number 3? That's a pretty prestigious. There's 12 Shvatim. He's not nearly number 12. Zevulun's all the way at the end. So Rashi says, Lefisha chibe v'satorah, because of his deep affection for the Torah. V'hirchiv yadav. He opened his hand, Lefazar mamono Yissochor, to spread out his mind to Yissochor, Kadesh lo yitztarach shevet Yissochor leparnasa. So Yissochor shouldn't have to work, v'lo yispatam lasik b'Torah, and they shouldn't have to stop studying Torah. And at the end, Leo's shutaf LaTorah, therefore Zevulun was merited to be a shutaf, to be a partner with Yissochor. And at the end, this is the kicker and the most famous medrash. The medrash says, Zevulun v'Yissochor shneim hayu notlin schar Torah biyachad. They both got the reward for Torah study. Ushneim hayu misparnesim biyachad. And they were both sustained by the same source. So if you have to, in a nutshell, bring everything together, Yissochor and Zevulun had a partnership. Zevulun worked, Yissochor learned, but they divided their parnasa, their livelihood, and they also divided the schar for their Torah study. That's what the Medrash is teaching us. And just to show you a more practical application of it, it's in the Gemara, but perhaps Rashi speaks it out a little bit better. In the first daf, in Masechah Zvachim, it speaks about karbanos. If you brought them for the wrong karban, shalol lishma lishma, that's irrelevant. But it brings there the name of a fellow. One of the Tanoim that it brings there is Shimon Achi Azariah. Shimon, the brother of Azariah, which is weird. You never find in the Gemara that a Tana is referred to as the brother of so-and-so. Ben, maybe even Bas. But you never find, or maybe even by the profession, Rabbi Yochanan Hasandla, Rabbi Yochanan the shoemaker. But where do you find anywhere Shimon Achi Azariah? Says Rashi, Al Shem, why was he called Shimon Achi Azariah? She'Azariah asak beparke matya. Azariah, his brother, was a businessman. The Sipek tzarche Shimon Achiv, and he provided food for Shimon, his brother. B'shaya shoyisa b'Torah, while they were studying Torah. Ve'isnu beineim, and they made a deal, a t'nai, a condition, she'echelek la'Azariah b'schar talmudo, that Azariah will get part of the schar, the reward, for his Torah study. Lefichach nikra al shemo. That's why this, when it speaks halacha in his name, it says Shimon, the brother of Azariah. The Torah is equally shared by both Shimon and Azariah. So says Rashi, and it's actually from the Gemara. Rashi didn't make it up; it's in the Gemara. We'll see the Gemara in a little bit later on. So that is another source having to do with Yissochor and Zevulun. Now we're going to see something really interesting that the Chida brings down. The Chida, Chaim David Azulay, one of the great Sephardic greats, he brings down the Gemara Masechah Sota, and this is where the Gemara with Shimon Achi Azariah is also. The Gemara says like this: even though women do not have an obligation to study Torah, says the Gemara, Nihi de pekude lo mifkada be'ig. They're not obligated to study Torah. Be'igra, as a reward, de mekaryun and misneh b'nayu, not that they take their children to yeshiva to study chumash and mishnayos. V'natrun le'gavraywa de osum be'midrash, and they wait up late for their husbands who are coming back from the base medrash. Milo palgam badayu, don't they also divide the schar of their husband's Torah study? So we see a new element to this. It's not just that Zevulun is getting 50%. The Talmud Yisachor's wife also gets 50%. Ask the Chida, bomb question. So let's say Yisachor gets 100 points for every hour of earning, of learning. 50 of those points go to his wife.
Learning there's 150%.
The other 50 goes to Zevulun, and Yisachor gets no schar for his Torah study. It's the Chida's question. It's a great question. We'll get to the answer very soon. But the truth is that even though it sounds like a nice Gemara, but if you think about it, the parameters are not exactly as you would think that they are, and there are a number of things that need clarification, which we're going to talk about. So here's just a few points that need clarification. Number one, Rashi says explicitly that they made a t'nai, they made a condition between the two of them. They made a business deal. Why do you need the t'nai? If you pay him to study Torah and he studies the Torah, you don't get the reward. It's only because there's a deal? That has to be a real deal. Also, do you know anyone who makes this deal with their wife? I'm going to study Torah and you're going to take care of the kids and wait up late for me, and you'll get 50% of my Torah study. You don't see the t'nai by the women, you don't see the condition. There's no legal deal with your wife. But by someone else there is. Why is there a difference? Also, the question we asked before, why is Zevulun said first by Birkas Yaakov and Birkas Moshe, and said second by the carbon of the Nesiim? Why is there a difference in order? Another question is the Gemara Maseches Brachos. The Gemara says in Maseches Brachos, on the Lamed Daled Amud Beis, the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Kol HaNeviim, all the prophets, Lo Nisnabu, they all prophesied about Mesi Bito L'Talmid Chacham, the reward for one who marries his daughter off to a Torah scholar. L'Ose Parke Mati L'Talmid Chacham, a person that gives a business deal to a Talmid Chacham, he has a choice between two people and he gives it to the Talmid Chacham. U'Lemahana Talmid Chacham in a Chasaf, and someone that gives his property to Talmid Chacham to help support him in learning. Avo, so that's what the Nevi'im talked about. They were able to describe that schar. Aval Talmid Chacham Atzman, but a Talmid Chacham himself, Ayin lo ra'asa Elokim zulasecha. Nobody saw, besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the incredible reward that a tzaddik is going to get. So what do we see from this Gemara? That who gets, does the guy supporting the tzaddik, the Talmid Chacham, get the same schar as him? No. Because that the Nevi'im were able to describe. They're able to describe the reward, the schar, that a Tomech Torah, one who supports Torah, gets. But they couldn't describe the actual Torah, the schar, the reward of the Torah studier himself. Why? If you study Torah, don't you get 50%? He gets 50, you get 50. They should be able to describe it. It's another question. A fifth question. The Gemara says, in Mesechus Pesachim, the Gemara says like this. Kol hamatil melai lekis Talmid Chachamim, a person who fills up the pockets of the Talmid Chacham, he supports him. Zocha, he merits, v'yoshev b'yeshiva shel mala. He gets to sit in the yeshiva in heaven. There's a yeshiva there where they study Torah, right? Talmid Chacham yoshvim v'trosei b'rotzei v'nenem zivashchinim, they study Torah. Now this guy's not a Torah scholar, he's ignorant. But because he supported a Torah scholar, he gets to sit in the Beis Medrash. Shenemar, the Pasuk says, Pasuk in Koheles, Ki b'tzel ha'chachma b'tzel ha'kesef. Because in the shadow of wisdom comes from the shadow of money. Now, I don't get it. If he's 50% of the Talmid Chacham, why is he only sitting in the shadow? He got in. He did get the ticket, got the golden ticket. He's able to go to the party. But he gets to sit in the background. He doesn't get to sit at the party, Kaviyachal. What do you mean? If he's a 50% shutuf, if his person that he supported is in there, he should be a 50% shutuf. He should know the Torah. Isn't that what you get? He got 50% of the schar. Doesn't that something? So why is it that it seems like he's only in the shadows? Just seems a little bit different. So the Shulchan Aruch. Let's pause a moment and see. Is this actually a thing? Is it real, or is it just like agada? Is it just an agadaic thing? You could support someone to study Torah and you get 50% of his Torah study. Is that actually real? Let's look at the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch writes. The Mechaber, Rav Yosef Karo writes, Mi sheyafshelo lilmod, one who cannot study Torah. Mipnei she'eni yodea klal lilmod, he never had a Jewish education. O mipnei hatirdos, he's just so busy, he has a business that literally consumes his life. Yaspik lacherim halomdim, he should support others that study Torah. That's the Sephardi rabbi, the Mechaber. But the Ashkenazi rabbi, and we're all of us are Ashkenazim, so let's see what the Ramah says. The Ramah says, listen to this Ramah. V'teichashev lo, and it is reckoned ki'ilu lomed be'atzmo, as if he himself, the ignorant person, is studying. V'yachal adam lehasno simchavero, you are permitted to make a legal stipulation with your friend. Sheyehu yasik b'Torah, your friend will study Torah. V'hu yamtzi lo parnasa, and you will give him a livelihood. V'yechalek imo b'schar, and he'll divide the merit or the reward of the Torah study with you. However, he says, Im kvar asak b'Torah, but if he's already studied Torah, eino yachal limkar lo chelko b'shvil mamon she yitein lo. It only works going forward. It doesn't work retroactively. You can't go over to Rav Chaim Kanievsky and say, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, I'd like to buy off you your last year of Torah study. What will it cost? But you could go to Rav Chaim Kanievsky and say, going forward from today, I will totally support you if you give me 50% of your schar. That works. Now here is something which many people are not familiar with. Listen to what the Shach writes. The Shach says, Yachluk imo b'schar. You, the Baal Habas, the Zvulun, the supporter, the Torah supporter, Kolomar schar Torah v'schar ma she'arviach ze yeh bein shneim biyachad. It's not just that you give the guy $100,000 a year and you get schar for his Torah study. 50% of your income goes to the Talmid Chacham, and 50% of his schar goes back to you. So I happen to know people who are millionaires and they support a profound Talmid Chacham and they support him well. They give the guy $100,000 a year, but they're making $1 million a year. Okay, Uncle Sam takes most of it, but whatever, they're left with $1 million a year. It comes up from the Shach, that's not sufficient. You literally got to give 50% of your income to the Talmid Chacham, so you can have one rich, strapping Talmid Chacham. You should see the Gemaras the guy uses, leather bound, correct? What does it spend his money on already?
Why can't you get a percentage of your learning from
we'll talk about that soon. Ramosha Feinstein has a whole tshuva if you can even do that. But the Shach is quite explicit, and he says that you actually have to give him 50% of your income, and then you get 50% of the schar that he has. Okay, so far, based on everything that we said, oh, and by the way, the Chazon Ish, there's a letter from the Chazon Ish, in Igros Chazon Ish, where he has the nusach, he has the text, the contractual jargon for making a deal between a Yissochor and between a Zevulun.
It has to be signed. It's signed.
Yeah, it's signed. Now, by the way, there is a shell in the postscript. If you need the legality, does there have to be a document for it to be legal? So most of the postscripts say this is all Hashem's book. If you make a deal, Hashem knows about it. But you do need a legal document, because if, let's say, one of them tries to renege, you could go to Beis Din and demand the money that he's not giving you. Or go to Beis Din and say, I want the money back because I saw you at Starbucks on your laptop when you're supposed to be in the Beis Medrash sitting and studying Torah. So that may be a reason why you want to have some legal aidim. You want to have an attorney on whatever it is. Make sure that they drop a good draft. So it sounds, from everything we said until this point, that it really works. You can sell your reward for Torah study. We have a question, if it's even worth anything, because if your wife takes 50% and he takes 50%, what are you left with? Although you could say he takes 50% and then one of them starts and then the other one takes 50% of that, or maybe each one takes 25 and you're left with 50, whatever. But the Chidah does bring up that solution, but we'll get to that soon. But bottom line, it seems like this is it's in the Shulchan Aruch, it's in the Gemara, it works. However, there's a tshuva from Maram al-Shakar. Maram al-Shakar was one of the was alive during the times of the Spanish Inquisition. He was actually expelled from Spain and had a very long odyssey into Europe, and then to Mitzrayim, to Egypt, and then to Eretz Yisrael, where he died in Eretz Yisrael. So in the Tshuvas Maram El Ashakar, when I was a kid we called it Tshuvas Maram al-Shakar, but it's really two words, El Ashakar. He writes from Rav Hai Gaon. Now, the Gaonim were there much earlier, before the Rishonim, so this is strong basis. He writes the following. Somebody came to Maram al-Shakar, came to Rav Hai Gaon, and asked about a person that gave his friend a golden coin on the condition that he studies Torah, and that the schus of that Torah study should go for him if that works or not. And he also brings another thing. There was a guy who wanted kapara. He didn't want to fast. He was a rich guy, so he walked over to the Talmid Chacham that was poor. He said, "You want to make $100?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "If you fast tomorrow and give me the schar of your fast, I'll give you $100. Give you $100. And by the way, don't think that this sounds so strange, because Rachmana Litzlan, God forbid, if one drops a Sefer Torah, what do you really have to do if a Sefer Torah drops? Fast for 40 days. Do people fast for 40 days nowadays? No. They give to tzedakah the value of the food they would have eaten that day for 40 days. So you do see that. It does seem there's some type of connection. But regardless of what, that was the child that was asked to Rav Hai Gaon. And the Maram al-Shakar and the Rav Hai Gaon go off on, they're like, if you give me food to eat, could I give you the nutritional benefit of the food that I eat? It doesn't work. And the Maram al-Shakar says, I'll read to you, Zeh hashota, this imbecile, shemachar taniso, that he sold his fast, achla kalba l'sheruse, a dog ate the reward. Maschar yeshno lifnei Hashem yisparach. What schar does he get for his tainus? And what does that guy get for the tainus that he fasted? And he comes out at the end and he says, there is no such thing. Ein adam kona schar chavero. You cannot buy off of your friend his schar. He doesn't seem happy with this at all. And Rabbi Akiva Eiger in the Gilyonis and bottom of the Shulchan Aruch says, hey, I know it sounds dandy from the Mechaber and the Ramah, who, by the way, the Mechaber doesn't bring this down, but the Ramah brings it down, which would make sense. Maram al-Shakar was a Sephardi. But the Shach, it seems everyone agrees that it works. No, not so quickly. So the main question, however, is going to be, so how do you equate? It's a Gemara. It's a pasuk in the Torah. And Rav Hai Gaon and Maram al-Shakar are kind of writing it off. How does that actually work? So in the Shalos HaTshuva Tzitz Eliezer of Eliezer Waldenberg, a much more recent posik, in Chelek Tesvav, volume 15, just to give you an example of the breadth of Rav Tzitz Eliezer, who basically addressed every single shaila under the planet, including every technology and modern day application of everything. It was a guy natzim. He brings a very interesting answer to kind of reconcile this Rav Hai Gaon and the Maram al-Shakar that Rabbi Akiva Eiger brings down and actual halacha. And he says something really interesting. He says, when you do a mitzvah, you put on tefillin, for example, you get two types of schar. He calls the first type of schar sechar seguli. The schar that's more like a segula. What's a segula? I don't even know how to translate it. Charm, kind of, whatever. Basically, what he says is, when you do a mitzvah, it impacts your spirituality. On a more Kabbalistic understanding, every time you do a mitzvah, it connects you to your neshama, to your soul. As the Kabbalists point out, the word mitzvah, the shorish is the word tzav. Tzav means command, but it also means a line. Find the word tzav means a line. Because it connects you to your neshama, connects you to Hashem. So when you do a mitzvah, it has a spiritual impact on you. That's the first type of schar, schar seguli. But he has another kind of schar, and he calls that schar gemulin, which gemulin means paycheck. You did a mitzvah in Hashem's book. It has a value. You just got 10 points, 15 points. So he says like this. When we speak about selling your schar, it's talking about the schar gemuli. The actual 10, 15 points that you got for doing your mitzvah, that you could sell. It's something that you own. It's yours. However, the schar of what it impacts you, when you fast, it does something for your neshama. It brings you closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can't sell that. Like he says, that's like somebody who ate and he wants to sell the benefit of his personal nutrition to somebody else. Zelo lech. It doesn't work. That type of schar, that's Rav Haigon, and that's what the Maram al Shakar we're talking about. So it comes out, it's limited. You could sell schar. What schar could you sell? The actual value of the mitzvah, but not the impact it has on you. And by the way, this answers, now we see why Yissochor is a higher level than Zevulun. Zevulun is just in his shadow. Yissochor is mentioned first, at least in the Nisim. Why? Because he has both parts of the schar. He has the actual value of the mitzvah that he performed, but he also has the spiritual impact. That spiritual impact just makes him more oriented when he comes to Shamayim, and he wants to be part of the discussion that's taking place. Interestingly enough, there is an obscure Dvar Torah from Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. It's printed in the Sefer Emes Liyaakov in Parshas Vizos HaBracha. I'll read it to you because I see the Emes Liyaakov right here. When I saw this, I couldn't believe that Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky writes this. And I looked it up tonight between Mincha and Mariv, and I saw that he writes something even more shocking than I had previously known. Listen to this, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, and he quotes others that say this as well. Behechrich, he says, you are forced to say, Shechelko b'shutfis, that the 50% partnership that Zevulun gets for supporting Yissochor, hu sheyikabel gamkein es hayedias b'Torah shel Yissochor. He gets the Torah knowledge that Yissochor has. So imagine this for a moment. You have a bur am ha'aretz, an ignoramus, who doesn't know how to crack a book, couldn't read a Rashi or a Tosfos, nothing. But he's been supporting a Talmud Chacham for many years. When he comes up to Shemayim, every Rambam, every Ktsos HaChoshen, every Rebbe Kiva Eger, that this Talmud Chacham learns, he knows with absolute certainty and clarity. And he says, Yissochor v'Zevulun yoshem mechitza achas b'yeshiva shamala. They sit together in the yeshiva, not just in the shadow. Maybe Zevulun doesn't have the spiritual quality that Yissochor has, but he has the Torah knowledge. Imagine that. That's a profound, profound thing. But he asks the question, how does that work? How do you get knowledge that you didn't have? So he says something mind-boggling. The Gemara says in Maseches Nida that when a child is in its mother's womb, a malach comes and teaches it Kol HaTorah Kula. And then the malach comes and he taps you on your philtrum right here, and you forget Kol HaTorah Kula. And then what do you have to do? You have to work. And with the amelus, with the work that you put in, you reclaim that which is already yours. That's what the Gemara says. So he says, comes out that Zevulun really has, in the Shorish of his Neshama, all the Yediyas HaTorah. He just lost it, or it was covered, because he had to earn it. He earned it differently. Yissochor earned it through actually learning the Torah, and Zevulun earned it by working hard and supporting Yissochor. But that Torah knowledge was there. Now he just reclaims that which was his. So says Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. Very interesting. I never heard this. I don't remember ever seeing this additional piece with the Torah knowledge that you claimed when you were in your mommy's tummy. That I don't ever remember seeing. Let's go a little bit further. So the Chida, and this is not everybody agrees with this, but many of the poskim agree with this. Let's go back to the question we asked initially. If your wife gets 50% of your Torah study, and your partner gets 50% of your Torah study, you have nothing. Or maybe even better, maybe you the Talmid Chacham, shouldn't agree to this deal. Because it diminishes the schar you get for studying your Torah. Two people are siphoning off what you get. Even if you get 50%, then they each get 25%. You've devalued your Torah study by doing this. You're losing 50% of your schar. So the Chida himself,
But you have to eat.
I hear. Figure out a different, I don't know what to tell you. Let's say you could learn 3/4 of the day and just work 1/4 of the day. You're gaining 25% by doing that. Maybe it's worth it. So the Chida says, and by the way, this is not fully agreed upon. We'll see for Moshe Feinstein, he doesn't paskin like this Chida. The Chida says that, he doesn't say this, but I assume this is what he means. If you have a pool of infinity, a pot with infinity in it, and you take out 50% of the infinity, what are you left with? Infinity. Schar is infinite, right? Schar mitzvah b'haya amaleka. God doesn't give schar, doesn't reward for your mitzvahs in this world. It's infinity. So even if you take away 50% of the infinity of it doesn't diminish the schar of Yissochor.
Why are mitzvahs infinity?
Huh?
Why are mitzvahs infinity?
Every mitzvah, the reason that you don't get reward for a mitzvah in this world is because the schar is not something you could count. It's a spiritual thing. You can't reward spirituality or physicality. So what do you reward spirituality with? Spirituality. Spirituality by definition is infinite. Now we as kids always understood that if we do a big mitzvah, we get 10 points. We do a little mitzvah, we get 5 points. We do an avera, we lose 5 points. We do a big avera, we lose 10 points. According to this, zelo nachon. We don't even understand what that means. I mean, Einat hayodea matan schar and shal mitzvahs, the mitzvah says in Pirkei Avos, right? Mitzvah Pirkei Avos says, have a zar b'mitzvah kala k'bachamura. Be careful with it, not such a major mitzvah like you would with a mitzvah, because you don't know the matan schar shal mitzvah, which seems like there are different levels, but that doesn't make sense. How could you have different levels of infinity? If it's infinity, there's no different levels of infinity. But regardless, says the Chida, that your wife, he says, is not even a question. Every word of Torah that you study, she gets 50%. And that doesn't diminish you, because she's part of you. Like Rabbi Akiva said about his wife Rachel to his students. Shali, v'shalachem shalai. Everything that I have is hers. He says that's clear. And he says the relationship, the schar that a wife gets, you don't even need a t'nai. You don't even need a business deal about that. It's automatic. She's you. And let's just bring another level of Kabbalah to this, because we know that a husband is 50% of a neshama, and a wife is 50% of a neshama. And after 120, when you get the schar, those two neshamas turn into one neshama. So of course she gets the schar. She gets 100% of the schar. She's you.
I mean, that means we're together for eternity?
That's what we say. That's for some people that's the biggest bracha, and for some people that's the biggest klala. I would say that's the difference between Christianity and Judaism. When the Christian priest, Lahavd, I'm saying in the Beis Medrash, when he officiates, goes until death do us apart. And in Judaism, we say until death bring us together. Correct? For certain people, that's what I said. Rabbi Avigdor Miller used to say that Gan Eden and Gehenna is exactly the same thing. It's a coffee machine, that part I added, a stender, a chair, and a room full of svarim. For the tzaddik, it's Gan Eden. For the Russia, it's the biggest Gehenna in the entire world. Same thing as with a wife, says Shlomo HaMelech. Motzi ani mar mima v'sasayisha. A woman is more bitter than death. What does it mean, more bitter than death? Because she's there after death. But at the same time, says Shlomo HaMelech, you'll see eternal life with the woman that you love. It depends if she's good or if she's the Ezer or she's Kenegdo. Correct? That's what it depends on. Anyways.
Presumably a woman is also taught in the womb, right, by the angel.
For sure.
So couldn't you also consider the Sechar mitzvah that you got for studying, she's getting it also through the womb in the same way she's getting by having that material activated by your learning it.
So I would say yes. If you learn the Gemara simplistically, what you're saying is very logical. But there's actually a question in that Gemara if the Malach teaches every single person all of Torah, which would conflict what we're saying. And then, I mean, it would take away the whole theory, but it for sure would take away the theory. There are those that say that the Malach only teaches you the Torah you're going to end up studying in your life. So I think we mean when we say in davening also, V'sein, give us chelkeinu b'sorasecha, our portion in your Torah. Wasn't our portion. Answer is, the Malach teaches you everything you need to know. So a woman has a chiyuv to study Torah actually, but the Malach only teaches her the Torah that she's going to need for practical application. I don't know, maybe they also the Torah she's going to study that she doesn't have to. It's a good question. The Gemara doesn't say the mouth teaches the boy, it just says it teaches the fetus. And ladies also have a indentation on their filter. Okay, whatever. So they put on a base so you don't see it. So they put on this type of base and we were in this base. In my school, I make announcements. I usually do lunch and learn where the kids come. They bring their lunch and we learn. It's voluntary. You don't have to do it. So I always make an announcement on the loudspeaker in the school. And I was like, there'll be lunch and learn with Rabbi Landau in the base. The whole school calls it the base because of what I do. And the Hebrew teachers hate it. Rabbi, it is not base. It is bet. All right, getting back to what I'm recording this class. I probably shouldn't say that. Anyways, getting back to what we're saying. Now, I want to just go through. There's really a lot more that we could go. There's a whole tshuva here from from others. I want to share with you one tshuva from Moshe Feinstein, because he has a very lengthy tshuva about this. And then Moshe was really kind, and at the end of the piece, he writes a summary of the basic ideas that he brought out about a Yissochor Zevulun partnership. And then we'll conclude with two stories, which are brought down in the poskim as well. So, Moshe Feinstein, this is an Igros Moshe in Yoredei Chelik Daled, in Siman Lamed Zayin. The topic is Be'inyan, pertaining to Eisek Yissochor Zevulun Halacha Lamaisa, the business deal between Yissochor and Zevulun, practical applications. It's a tshuva for Moshe Feinstein. So Moshe Feinstein says the following. It's a very long tshuva. I went through most of it. But Moshe says, and here is the summary: 7 points. Here are the 7 points in staccato fashion. First of all, says Moshe Feinstein, this mitzvah of supporting a Talmid Chacham is not tzedakah. It is. You cannot use tzedakah money for it. You can't use your meiser money. He says Yisachar, their land was very, very full of natural resources. They could have been very naturally wealthy. They were not. It was not tzedakah. They made a decision to study Torah, so therefore Zevulun wanted a chelek of that, a portion of that. But Yisachar was not. They were not poor. The mitzvah of a Yisachar Zevulun, the concept of Yisachar Zevulun, is not tzedakah. It's a business deal. It reminds me of a guy in my father-in-law's shul who paid $2,000 to open the Aron for Geshem. For Tfilas Geshem that we say on Shmini Atzeres. So I was schmoozing with the guy afterwards, and I said, that's a lot of money. He goes, listen, I'm an investor. I throw money at all kinds of startups and stuff like that with the hope that in Mitzvah Shem I'll get dividends. He goes, what's $2,000? I'm investing. If it's a school, they say it's a school for Parnasa. It's an excellent school. $2,000 is nothing to drop for a school for Parnasa, because hopefully I'll get back at least the 2,000, and hopefully 10 times that. Okay, number 2. Says Moshe Feinstein, if you pay somebody else for a mitzvah that they did, so you want the schar of a mitzvah of lulav and esrog, so you pay a guy $100, or you give him a lulav and an esrog, you do not get the schar of his performance of his mitzvah. You get no schar. You can't sell any other mitzvah. The schus of the schar of me putting on tefillin one day, I'll sell I need to pay my credit card bill at the end of the month. I go over to the guy next to me and I say, listen, you want to make $100? Yeah, give me 100. You want to do some serious business here? Give me $100, and I'll give you the schar putting on my tefillin. I don't have ownership. I can't sell that. If a guy gives me a pair of tefillin, buys me a lulav or a mezuzah, he gets the schar for enabling someone to do a mitzvah, but that's not the schar of every mitzvah that I perform. Says Moshe Feinstein, it is distinct and unique to Limud HaTorah. It's a business deal that you can't make a business deal out of abstracts, but there's one exception, and that's Torah study. And Moshe explains previously, he says earlier, that Hashem gave, it's a great gift that every person in Klal Yisrael, even those with no education or no intellectual capability or no zitzfleish, they can't sit and learn, they could still attain the level of a Talmid Chacham, at least eternally. How? By supporting the Talmid Chacham. So that's the point number 2 that Moshe Feinstein says. It only works by Torah. You cannot sell the merit of any other mitzvah. You don't have ownership over it. Number 3 says Moshe Feinstein, it only works if it's 50-50 in all areas. He gives you 50% of his schar, quote unquote, not like the chidah, that he keeps everything, and you give him 50% of your income. It doesn't work to slap 100 grand down on the table and say, I want the schar of your Torah study this year. It doesn't work like that. Okay. Number 5, he says, he says something amazing. Think about it for a moment. Let's say you have a guy who's making $2 million a year. How much does he have to give according to this? $1 million. Let's say you have a guy who's making $200,000 a year. How much does he have to give? $100,000. Yet they get exactly the same schar. Correct? Because it doesn't work that way, that if I'm paying more money, therefore I get more schar. It's shaveh b'shaveh, Moshe Feinstein calls it. It's tis for tat. 50% of my income, 50% of your Torah study. Yeah. And finally, he says, it only works if the Talmud Chacham is able to learn b'menuchas hanefesh. The reason Zevulun supported Yissochor, Moshe Feinstein writes, is so Yissochor should be able to study Torah without a care in the world. They wake up in the morning, they know they could study Torah and no one's going to bother them. They won't have to worry about marrying off their children and paying their mortgages and property taxes and all the crazy stuff that's out there. It only works if the level of Torah study of a Talmud Chacham is b'menucha. Like the pasuk says by Yissochor, Vayar menucha ki tov. He saw that menucha was good, and that's why it works. And then finally, Rav Moshe Feinstein says, it's only that it doesn't work on a temporary basis. For the next month, I will give you 50% of your income, and for the next month, you will give me 50% of your Torah study. It doesn't work that way. It's a long-term, I should say, if you're in it for the long run. That's what Rav Moshe Feinstein writes. We'll conclude with, like I said, with 2 stories, great stories. Both of these stories are brought down in Sefer. Sefer is called Asufas Ma'arachos on Chanukah. The Chavetz Chaim said over from Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the founder of the Yeshiva movement from Volozhin, that there was a particular benefactor of the Yeshiva that Reb Chaim said to him, if you support our Yeshiva, then after you pass away, I'll study Torah in your merit. And that's what happened. The guy gave a lot of money to the Yeshiva, and Reb Chaim Volozhiner, after he died, Reb Chaim Volozhiner sat down to study Torah. He opened up Mishnayos Taharos, which is what we study traditionally, and he began to learn Mishnayos Taharos. Now we can understand that Reb Chaim Volozhiner, when he learned Taharos, it wasn't like he was reading from an art scroll siddur. He was learning at an incredibly deep level. In the middle of it, he gets getting deeper and deeper, and all of a sudden he has a question that he doesn't have the answer to. And he's thinking back and forth, and all of a sudden he dozes off. And as he's sleeping, all of a sudden, the fellow who passed away comes to Reb Chaim Volozhiner in a dream, and he tells him the answer perfectly. And so Reb Chaim Volozhiner understood it perfectly. And Reb Chaim realized, how is it possible? This guy was a Am Haaretz. He was a wealthy businessman. The answer is that in the schar for supporting Torah, he got Yediyas Torah. And so much so, that even some Reb Chaim couldn't understand, this guy understood. That was story number 1. Another great story, that the Reb Eliezer Yudel Finkel, the early Mirror Rosh Yeshiva, he came for Pesach. He had to spend Pesach one time in the United States. On Chol HaMoed, he went to visit one of the very big benefactors of the Mir Yeshiva in Europe. So when he came to visit this wealthy guy, the guy really figured, listen, the Yeshiva's probably here for a check. So he wrote a big check to the Yeshiva, and the Yeshiva gave it back to him. He says, aren't you here to collect money? He goes, no. The halacha teaches us, Chayiv Adam lahakpil pnei Rabo b'chag. You're supposed to go visit your Rebbe during Yontif. He said to him, just like you're obligated to support your Rebbe in Torah study, also, if somebody supports Torah study, he also gets the level of the Rebbe of the Yeshiva. You're the biggest Nadvan? You're the biggest donor? You have the level of the Rosh Yeshiva. I'm just here to visit you on Yontif. Chayiv Adam lahakpil pnei Rabo b'chag. A person is obligated to meet his Rebbe. Now, I don't want to pass any halacha l'maisa on this, but hey, maybe one day we could figure out a way to support a Talmid Chacham with 50% of our income, and in Mitzvah Shem, after 120, we'll be even greater Talmidei Chachamim than we are right now. For listening, and have a good night.